I'm joined by ENCA reporter Erin Bates. Erin, thank you so much for joining me. Why has the President instituted the Special Tribunal now? It seems to me that this was a measure at his disposal as early as last year.
Well, he has access to the authority to establish special tribunals like this perpetually under the SIU and Special Tribunals Act.
Yes.
So the question is, of course, as you're hinting to, why now? And it seems as though what may have happened is because of the investigations and discoveries that have emerged from things like the Zondo Commission, that there's more and more pressure to try and actually implement some kind of action on the wastage of state resources. The Sunday Times today, for example, indicated that Eskom was robbed to the tune of 170 billion rand. And this special tribunal seems to be in place, according to the Presidency statement, to expedite the process, to speed up actual recovery of monies that has been stolen from the state.
You know, at first glance, upon reading the statement, it would seem to be a Bandaid solution. The tribunal, though, has been set up for a period of 3 years.
Yeah, so it's a Bandaid that's going to be on for a long time. And what it may suggest is that there are issues with other law enforcement agencies, the NPA, the Hawks, and the SIU itself, that has precipitated the need for this special tribunal. And it indicates by its name that it may be a forum where people can be called up and interrogated. Although, of course, we already have that with the likes of, you know, the Zondo Commission and other commissions underway to try and get to the bottom of what happened and how so much state money went missing.
Well, let's talk about the missing monies and monies that have been lost, monies and assets, rather, that have been lost by the state, either due to corruption or irregular expenditure. What is the scope of the Special Tribunal's powers? It is obviously to get back those assets and lost monies. How will they then prioritise what they go after first?
Well, I have to go through the SIU and Special Tribunals Act quite carefully. It's under Section 2 that this Special Tribunal can be instated, and in fact, it may well need to cooperate with the Asset Forfeiture Unit that's more responsible for gleaning and gaining, you know, monies and assets that may be linked to fraud, corruption, money laundering, and even state capture. So as for the specific powers on gaining assets and recovering monies, I'd rather sort of defer answering that in too much detail until I've referred back to the legislation. But in terms of, you know, your question earlier about why now, that's one pertinent question. Why now? What is missing from the existing law enforcement agency that requires the special tribunal to be established by the President? What does it play into in terms of his efforts to establish this new dawn? We know that when he went to Davos, for example, he was punting the fact that he'd set up all of these commissions of inquiry as a kind of clean-up effort to try and characterize his new administration as a clean-up administration. So I can't give you the finer details on that. I don't want to speak out of turn, having not read through all the legislation, but it certainly is telling, and also the caliber of people he's appointed, because he hasn't only appointed Judge Makaya, he's also appointed another 7 judges to serve as members of the Special Tribunal.
Any sense of the practicalities? You've mentioned the fact that this tribunal would probably have to work in tandem with the Assets Forfeiture Unit. Any sense of the practicalities of how the tribunal is going to work?
Well, besides the fact that it's going to run for 3 years and that it may well have the ability to establish fora, to call people forward and answer certain questions, it has powers under the SIU Act. So it has some of the same teeth that the SIU has in terms of the investigations it does and the procedures it can follow. We hear, for example, through the statement that they're going to focus on civil action. And in fact, we heard from the board chair of Eskom on Friday that they've handed over various matters relating to Eskom fraud to the Hawks, the SIU and the NPA. So whatever the mandate of the Special Tribunal, it's going to have to coordinate with other bodies of state. And that is an ongoing problem. We saw with the Estina case, for example, involving allegations against Gupta-linked persons and companies, that there was a lack of coordination and capacity to deal with the fine-tuned forensic analysis on financial flows and money moving in and out of the country. So that's certainly going to be a concern for the Special Tribunal as it works specifically under that act on regaining monies lost through fraud, corruption and money laundering.
It'll be interesting to see what now happens with the Auditor General as well in terms of giving that office teeth so that they can deal with delinquent departments.
Certainly, and it is a question of, you know, how many different entities do we need to look into these issues before we start seeing adequate prosecutions and pertinently regaining any of the monies if and where possible. And that becomes an even bigger and more complicated puzzle because it often will involve coordinating with our other jurisdictions, having indictment processes, for example, and being able to recall suspected persons in other jurisdictions. So it is a massive project. I think the names of the people that have been appointed by President Ramaphosa, the fact that it's been established now is telling, and we're going to have to see what happens over the next 3 years. By then, the Zondo Commission, for example, will be long over.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks so much, Erin. Look forward to tracking the story with you as it progresses.